guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making a t-shirt from this material, and this material is a stretch material. As you can see, it's brown and blue stripes, and the t-shirt that I'm going to be making is one like this. This one I made yesterday. I made the video but had a problem with the video, so I'm going to make a new one so you can see how I made this t-shirt. Just a simple t-shirt. The material is also stretch. Yeah, so let's get ready. I'm going to fold my fabric. When you're working with stripes, always make sure that your stripes line up correctly. Alright, so this half is going to be my back. So the length that I'll be cutting this is 24.5, and my seam allowance is 1/4 inch. So I'm going to mark 24.5 inches. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just cut this piece out, so when I go to mark it, you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is mark out my neck. From the top, I'm going to mark down 1.25 inches. From this folded half, I'm going to mark in 3.5 inches. Okay, and then from this mark over, I'm going to mark 5 inches. Okay, so this between here is going to be my neck, that's going to be my shoulder. Now I'm going to take my curve ruler. I'm going to take my curve ruler and I'm going to place it between this mark and that mark, so that will give me my neck curve. Alright, so this is my neck curve right here. So with this mark, I'm going to mark down 1.5 inches. Alright, so now I'm going to join this mark to that mark. And that's my shoulder. So I'm going to cut this out now so you can see. Alright, so right away you see the shape of the blouse, of the t-shirt. Okay, from the top you measure down 9 inches. Right, and that's your 9 inches mark. So you have this mark and that mark to join. So what we're going to do, use our curve ruler, and you're going to place that so that you have that curve here, and this curve is the underarm. So this is where your top of your shoulder, and you go right down like that. Alright, so now I'm going to cut this out. What I'm going to do is straighten the sides here and also the hem. So it's my 24.5 inches I'm marking here. Okay, so this is my back finish. Another thing you can do to mark your back is right in the arm here, you give it 2 notches. You can notch the center of your neck. Alright, so this is the back done. Now we're going to cut the front half. So what I would do that is much easier in my opinion, I would just take my back, place it on top of the fabric like this. Make sure your stripes line up, the back stripe line up properly with the front. Alright, so working with patterns and stripes, it does take time, so just be patient and just make sure, because at the end of the day, once you finish making this, it looks a lot better once the stripes are all lined up. Alright, so now I'm satisfied with that. What I'm gonna do is just mark all the way around. Once you're done with that, you can unpin. Alright, so now we finished marking out the back. This is going to be our front. So the only adjustments I'm going to make in the front is to come in a bit on the arm and lower my neck. So from this neckline here, I'm going to measure down 2 inches. And from this corner, we're just going to taper it in. So what I'm going to do here is just come in slightly, 1/4 of an inch, just around this curve, coming up here. So I'll just, instead of measuring it, I'm gonna just mark it. And next I'm gonna take my curve ruler again. From this here down, I'm gonna place my curve ruler so you get that dip in the front. Okay, so just so you see this much better, I brought the camera closer and you can see exactly where the back neck line is here from what we marked previously. I brought it down 2 inches. Sorry about that. I brought it down 2 inches and then I joined this 2-inch mark right back up to this point here. Okay, so right away you can see the back t-shirt and the front t-shirt. And then for the arm, I kind of tapered it in from here and come out about 1/4 of an inch, and also you taper it in going in here. And this is the front t-shirt line, and then the one outside, as you can tell, is the back t-shirt line. And this is another easy way you can make a t-shirt or a top. Alright, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut it out, and I'll be cutting this line, as you know, because this is my front half right here. Alright, so this is the front, and in the front arm you can give that 1 notch and also notch the center front of your top. Right in my arm here, at the top, I'm going to notch 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to do the same thing on this other one. Alright, so now I'm going to be working on my sleeve. I'm going to be using this half here. It's doubled. You're going to fold that, and you're going to fold again. From this end over, you're going to measure 9 inches and mark. From this mark, measure down 6 inches. From this end to that end, I'm going to also measure 9 inches. So this is my 9 inches mark. From this end up, I'm going to measure 3 inches. So you have your 9 inches going across, your 9 inches going across the top, you have your 3 inches going across. So from this point at the top down to this point, that's when we're going to make our curve. So to make the curve, I'm going to be using this curve ruler. And this is my sleeve, just an easy, simple sleeve. And this is what my sleeve look like. At the top, this is the 9 inches mark. At the bottom, this is also 9 inches. And from this point up to that point, that is 3 inches. Then I take this point and join it with this point here. So I'm gonna just pin this in place for now. Okay, and then I'm gonna cut this. Alright, so this is as far as I go here. I'm just going to cut this out as well. And that's my sleeve. There's one last thing I'm going to do so that you can see. I'll take 2 of these. And I'm just going to come in a tiny bit, and that is going to be my front, basically 1/4 of an inch, and you taper it off right there. Then you give this 1 notch that would indicate the front, and the 2 notch which would indicate the back, and you can also notch the center. Alright, and that's a very easy way to make a sleeve. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting out my bands, 1 for the neck and the 2 for the sleeves, and they're only going to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to see if I can use this. Yes, I can. So because this has stripes, it make it easy for me to cut. Right between here is 1.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these 2 strips. All right, that's done. So next I'm gonna go over to the machine and I'm gonna sew these all together. All right guys, so now I'm at the machine. All right, so I'm going to be joining the back and the front shoulders together. All right, so now I'm going to overlock my seams. When I finish overlock my seams, I like to give it a top stitch. You're going to make sure the seam goes towards the back, and then you give it a fine top stitch on both sides. This is what the top looks like so far. This is the neck bit here, and this is the sleeve that I just did. So once I join this in, that's the kind of sleeve that I like. All right, so what I'm going to do, go ahead and I'm going to press right around here, and then I'm going to put on the other sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and gather my sleeve at the bottom, and I would give it 2 stitches right across the bottom to gather. This is basically what I'm talking about. I'm going to be pulling the gathering from the bottom, so I'm going to take the 2 threads at the bottom and pull. Right, so now I'm finished with the gathering on this sleeve. You're going to take this strip and then you're going to fold it wrong sides in. You're going to place it on top of your sleeve and you're going to stitch all the way along. Alright, I'm going to overlock my seam. Alright, so next I'm going to put my sleeve in. Make sure you have your mark here to show your back and your front, as well as on the sleeve. So this is my 1 notch, that means this is the front. This is my 1 notch on the body, so that means it's in the front. So I'm going to take my center notch and place it right here on the top shoulder seam. You're going to pick your sleeve up and you're going to have the end here. You're going to have the end of your body. You're going to pin them together and you're going to do that on both sides. And after you've done that, you can go ahead and do all and pin, and then you stitch. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and stitch this in. Now I'm going to overlock my seam. After that, I'm going to give this a top stitch, and the seam that you have here, make sure that your seam is facing your body. And then you're going to give this a top stitch, and make sure the top stitch is on the body and not the sleeves. I'm going to go ahead and press this bottom bit of my sleeve. Alright, I'm finished putting in my 2 sleeves. So now I'm going to be putting the band onto my neck. So I'm going to find the center on the back and the front. Just going to go ahead and measure around. When you measure, it's always good to measure like this. So if I do that, it gives it a little bit of room. So around the neck is 9.5 inches. So this band when I double it, when I double that, I should measure 9.5. Once I got that 9.5, I could make a mark, or you can give it a notch. Fold it on the wrong side. And then you're going to stitch along this line here. Alright, so I'm going to give this stitch right along the 9.5 inch mark. You can cut off the excess fabric, then open the seams, and you're going to fold in half. Alright, what I'm going to do here is give it a fine stitch all the way around, just to hold it together. Alright, so now I'm finished stitching my band all the way around. I'm going to find the center notch. So I'm going to put it in half. And then I'm going to notch. This notch this seam here is going to go in the back, right on this notch here. And then this other notch is going to go in the front notch. So basically this is what you're going to do. This is the back notch right here, and you're just going to pin this notch onto this notch, and this is just to get it straight. Then you can go ahead and pin all the way around. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and stitch the band onto the neck. So once you're satisfied with that, you can go ahead and overlock your seam. And around the neck, I'm gonna also give it a top stitch. And as usual, make sure that your seam is facing your body. And also I like to start from the seam. I like to start from the seam when I'm doing a top stitch. So in the shoulder here, I'm going to start from this seam. Alright, just to show you what the t-shirt look like so far, all I have to do is just stitch the sides and the bottom and I'm done. And this is the neck. And this is the other sleeve. Alright, so once you do that, you should have your seams matching just like this. So what I'm going to do is just overlock the seam right here. And for the seam under the arm, I'm going to turn the seam towards the back and then give it a top stitch right on the band. And the top stitch should look like this. Okay, so to finish this t-shirt, I'm gonna turn the hem. Make sure that the seam is going the same direction towards the back. I'm going to turn the hem 1/2 inch and then another 1/2 inch. And I'm going to stitch all the way around the hem to finish my t-shirt. So you guys might like to see the t-shirt on me. This is what it looks like.